Hello, it's Phillip Taylor from Richmond Green Chambers speaking. I'm talking about a book which I've reviewed on a number of occasions now. It's currently called Shareholders' Rights. It's published by Sweet Maxwell and is written by Robin Hollington. It's a really excellent book, and I've given it the title for the internet reviews that I produced, Sharing a Good Read with the 5th edition. Because the new edition has come out as a result of the recent Companies Act legislation. And when I had reviewed the 4th edition of this book for the Barrister magazine in 2004, we were obviously awaiting the new legislation at that time. Obviously the 5th edition has come out pretty quickly, and it's now called Shareholders' Rights by Robin Hollington QC. I think it's arrived at just the right time, because many would-be investors need to know what the changes are that have taken place to the Companies Act itself. And obviously there have been some changes. Obviously the Companies Act 2006 is currently being digested. It's the largest piece of legislation we've ever had. And what in fact Robin has done, I met him when he launched this book at Dr. Johnson's house. He's a charming man. What he's done is he's presented the work to highlight the way in which the law on shareholders' rights has developed. And therefore it's clearly the leading authority in its field today, even in its expanded form. Obviously I've not got the book here, but just a picture of it. It's relatively slim, nice green cover. It's also, in my view, the one place to turn to for students studying company law, so they can find out what the law says. And you've actually got Hollington's quite useful comments which are made, and he obviously practices in this particular field and is very authoritative. It's a great book, of course, if you want to go for a first, because you've got the heavyweight authoritative nature of it, which will impress, I think, academics. Just to remind you, of course, the original book was called Minority Shareholders' Rights, but we've moved on a little bit from that within the development of what I still call as company law, but it's more like corporate responsibility today. What the author does, though, is he covers and examines the implications of some of the leading cases since the 2004 edition, including Re-Chime Corporation, and a number of other cases like the titanium electrode products case. The structure of the book remains relatively the same in some respects, but he's had to make some changes to take account of obviously the new legislation. It now contains 14 chapters and 2 appendices, and begins with a splendid introduction to set the approach with broad principles, including the meaning of separate legal personality and so on. In fact, you've got all the basics, including Foss and Harbottle and so forth. Obviously, as you know, the concept of current terminology for this type of work is called corporate governance rather than company law. Obviously, it's just the way of expressing it at the moment, but we all know what it really means. Forwards, of course, to the past editions of this book have included people like Lord Hoffman, who actually commented on the first edition with a generous summary when he said it's the emanation of minority shareholders as a recent event. And obviously you can see from those early days how things have changed. The work obviously moved on considerably when Mr. Justice Hart made comments in the 3rd edition, when he said that the prediction of when an English court will protect the rights of minority shareholders presents, quote, many interesting and difficult problems. Quite right. Then by 1999, which is 10 years ago, Mr. Justice Hart acknowledged that Hollington had actually increased the number of newly reported cases, and describes the book now as an indispensable tool of the litigation lawyer, and he recommends it as an invaluable aid both for litigators and ADR practitioners, and obviously he's right. And since then the book has gone from strength to strength. So for the 4th edition we had Lady Justice Arden commenting that the book is written in such a way that it is not so much about how to run company meetings or appoint and remove directors or matters of that kind, as about how to manage disputes. And of course that's very much the direction in which the judiciary has gone. As I say, there's a great deal of information, but what's in it for 2008-2009? Well, it's refreshing to read Robin's work, in my view. You don't necessarily have to agree with some of the points that are being put forward, but he does actually cover the ground, I think, with tremendous lucidity. And he's an expert, let's make no mistake about it. And he describes a number of cases like O'Neill and Phillips in the House of Lords in a particular way, saying, of course, as does happen in the common law, that many of these decisions are decided on their own particular facts. He also covers, I think, an area which is very important at the moment, foreign jurisdiction and Section 994 matters. Obviously, we look at the foreign element in some detail. There are, of course, broad principles which he has aimed to produce throughout this work, and in fact he does that eminently well. He doubts, having looked at what he said, that the cultural change in a company's operations will make any difference in practice in the future, but he actually says we'll have to wait and see, and it's certainly going to be an academic issue for practitioners for some time to come. So, to sum up, what I think this current 5th edition does is it succeeds in blending the 17 broad principles of managing the shareholder's position within a company with a precision and an ease which will benefit all who read it. I'm sure they'll find the new commentaries, of course, which have been added for the 2006 Act invaluable as we begin to get to grips with the consolidated legislation and the places that directors' duties now find themselves in the new statutory footing. I think it's an excellent complementary book now to what we've already got, and I think he explains everything with a lot of ease. So it's well worth reading. Thank you very much, Robin. Goodbye.